Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Keep the Mic On. Welcome back. We are back from our holiday break, and I'm very excited for us to be here, as everyone would say. I hope everyone had a blessed and relaxing holiday season. My name is simply Sherry, and as you know, since March of 2020, we have been here in conversation with artists of all disciplines on all varying topics of subjects. I am not going to talk about what tonight's show is about because I am hosting. So right now, I'm going to kick it to the one, the only girl genius.
Hey everyone, Happy New Year. Great to see you all here. Excited to be back. Yay to what are we all, the third or fourth season? Season four.
Yep.
Wow.
Season four. Yay. We are on season 4 of Keep the Mic On. We are back. We are ready to go. I'm glad everybody's here. I'm glad everybody's safe. 2023 is already showing its ass. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you were paying attention, like, yo, okay. So we are happy to have you all back here with us, safe, sound, hopefully all things well and intact and all the stuff. My week is called, let's talk about the ... usually books. Though I have ventured into and want to venture into arts and all things arts and big projects and talk about everything from tangible idea to here's this thing that I am now trying to give to you to share with the world. That's my thing. I am going to stop talking. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for our guest tonight. So I am going to pass it down to, look, I got the easy point tonight.
Down.
Our other host,
I am Kaniki Jakarta. You can call me Kaniki Jakarta because that's what my mama named you. Happy New Year and happy everything to all of y'all. I'm very excited about our super fantastic guest for tonight. But I first need to tell you, because it's a new year. First, let me say, don't just be watching, be a part. Like, follow, subscribe. We all volunteer our time.
7 people away from having our first 100. So let's go.
Oh, wow. 7? Wow. Okay. Come on. Let me get them 7 tonight. So, my week is called Poets and Platforms, where I interview poets who have platforms for the art. I'm super duper excited about our guests for tonight. But let me just tell you, everybody, including us, everybody that comes on here, they volunteer their time. But these platforms are not free. So if you would like us to continue to keep the mic on, scrolling at the bottom of your screen, you see our Cash App. It is Keep the Mic On. Drop some Cornish in there and things and such and all. Yes. I don't know why her name is simply Sherry, because it's nothing simple about her. So I'm going to introduce her to come on. You know, I think she has the best segment because she can ask anybody anything. I think she did that on purpose.
Of course I did.
Yeah, she did that on purpose. Yeah. So, and shout out to our silent member analysis and our not so silent member, Selah, who is the baby of the group.
Yes. Welcome. And you may notice, if you have been a longtime watcher, that there's now only 3 of us doing the show. This is how we have decided to move on going forward. So be prepared for some updates and changes as the year goes through. You know, just a gentle, like, don't let us say we didn't tell y'all there may be more changes. Right. All right. So I am going to remove my comrades off screen here so that I can get into, I'd hit the button. There we go. So we can start getting into tonight's interview. This interview was originally scheduled in October, but due to unforeseen circumstances, I had to reschedule. I wasn't able to do the show that night. So I'm very excited to have this opportunity to interview this artist. Born and raised in Chocolate City, Washington, D.C., Najya Williams is a poet, filmmaker, and performer. The Harvard graduate and Temple University medical student is the author of the poetry chapbook Cotton, which is a look through her eyes as a young Afro-Caribbean woman living in America. Her spoken word album, Mad Black Woman, explores the themes of Black Marxism, righteous anger, backstage performance, hypersexualization, consumption of Black women, and emotional labor. These works, as well as her original short films, are all available via download on her website, NajyaWilliams.com. Y'all see it right here at the top. Her commentaries can be found on her blog and in various online publications. Najya advocates for prioritizing self-care and self-preservation, especially in the Black community, and remains committed to changing hearts and minds across the world, one word at a time. Everyone, please, please, please give a huge internet welcome to Najya Williams. Hey, honey, you're muted.
Hi.
Hi, honey. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so happy that we were able to get this show rebooked and aired, because you know how I feel about you and your work. And I want everyone to know why I enjoy your poetry work so much. So now is the time. I'm going to exit stage left. The floor is yours.
See, now I got 32 flavors of that bootylicious bubble gum, raspberry, grape, cherry. Come and get this honey bun. And he must have had a sweet tooth to walk right up to me and stare like there was no one else in the room, enchanted. That's what I would call him, enthralled, engaged. Even Anita couldn't coach him out of this rapture. He was savory and savoring this moment to encounter me, and I let him. After all, he is standing in front of divinity. His gaze is the very least that he could offer me, but like most men, he wanted not to admire me, but devour me, ingest me with the rest of his treasured delicacies. I laugh because normally I offer a warning, a flare of do not try me, you're not ready, not for consumption, overdose deadly, but this time I don't. I allowed myself to become another part of his candy collection of baked confections, and he soon learns a hard lesson that I'm not something he'll easily forget. Every cavity I carve out with extreme precision. Every tooth I chisel my way down into the pulp of them, the pulp of him. I'm inside of him, working my way through every vein, sustaining him. I'm sure this wasn't the sugar high he was expecting when he met me. I'm sure this wasn't the kind of jawbreaker he was craving when he kept me. I'm sure this wasn't the kind of girl that he wanted when he met me and put me in his little glass tower fantasy. I finally understand why he calls me his snack, his candy, his sweet thing. He wanted a cheap fix to expensive thrills, a geyser of joy at the top of misery hills, a fleeting gift that won't linger, that won't question, that won't disrupt. But he is wrong. He was wrong. He can't brush me away or floss me out. The pain won't stop the truth of me from living inside of his mouth. It will persist, and so will I. They say that tooth pain is the worst pain you can ever experience. I say it's only the worst when it's self-inflicted. He could have avoided this, could have come out on top of this, but he didn't know I was made to stick, made to prick, made to trick him into thinking there was such thing as a simple fix. He must have had some kind of sweet tooth to do what others no longer dare to. I laugh because normally I offer a warning, but this time I don't.
Ooh, God, I love that poem. Oh, I love that poem. I love that poem.
Thank you.
So we're going to start with a question about inspiration. What inspired you to write that piece? Because that piece is so dope, and especially in how you constructed it. So first off, what was the inspiration behind writing that piece?
Yeah, so I really just wanted to have a piece that was fun. It actually was like a personal challenge to myself during the pandemic to actually write poems that were a little more joy centered. I feel like sometimes in performance spaces, and especially in competitive performance spaces, it can be really, really heavy. And that's not to say that art can't be an outlet. I started writing poetry as an emotional outlet, but I wanted to have a piece that felt almost like a reclaiming of sorts. Me saying, like, I know I'm cute, I know I'm fly, and in the same way that you want to consume me and you want me to be yours, I'm taking back ownership of that and I'm making you mine. So I love that spin on it. It was a lot of fun to write, and it's even better to perform.
Yes. So let me ask. So the next question I wanted to ask was, because you decided to center it about teeth and dental work, like was that? So did you really dive intentionally into researching that, or?
Yeah, so like fun fact about me, I have major anxiety about like dental procedures and stuff like that. So when I was thinking about this whole idea of people calling me like a snack and oh girl, like guys are sweet thing, that kind of thing. I was like, there has to be a downside, right? To all of this candy, to all of this sugar that people keep talking about. And I was like, oh my God, cavities. That is like no, everybody hates the dentist. No one wants to go and get fillings and get cleanings and like have all of this dental work. And the idea of kind of throwing that in people's faces, like you're doing all of this work to consume all of this sugar and you're not even thinking about the other side of that. I just thought it would be something so fun to play with.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I like those. I like those moments where the poem is about X, but the concept is on Q. Like it's just, they come together, but it's just really, that sounds like a poem in itself. Let me stop talking. All right. So,
write that down.
Especially when there are words out there like quixotic, which has the Q and the X in it. Yeah, right. Everybody write that down. Yes. See, you heard it. You heard it.
Yes.
All right. So, okay, I'm trying to avoid some questions that I know I'm going to be asking later. How have you been able, as you've mentioned in your bio, you are currently you are a medical student at Temple University.
Yeah.
How do you add time to write into what must be a demanding program?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And it's one literally everybody has for me. So one of the things that I love about our program at Temple Med is that we actually have a narrative medicine program that's designed to give us the space to read novels, read memoirs, write creatively, to maintain that artistic, humanistic aspect of ourselves, which I think in turn makes us better healthcare providers. So I actually have a lot of time kind of already built into my schedule just from participating in that program. And honestly, because writing feels like such an outlet for me, it's very easy for me to take a study break and just like jot down some thoughts. Because being Black woman in medicine produces a lot of inspiration for my poetry and for writing. So I don't feel like I'm ever short of an opportunity to write something down or record a quick like voice note on my phone.
All right. Real quick moment. If anyone else is noticing, yes, there may be a little bit of a lag, a little bit of out of syncness with Najya. We did notice it. We thought we fixed it before the show, but we're going to keep sliding along. Y'all just going to listen and enjoy and act like it's not happening. Sound cool? Cool. Did you, so how do you believe that being a poet and a writer will benefit you becoming a doctor?
I think honestly, it already has in like this earlier part of my training. Because coming in let me back up a little bit. So I started writing poetry when I was 8 years old because I lost my grandmother to cancer. So writing poetry was a way for me to channel those emotions, to communicate to other people how the experience of losing her made me feel. And over time, as I got older, especially growing up in DC, there were so many other issues that were happening. Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Oscar Grant, so many injustices. And of course, I had grown up, being taught about Black history and Martin Luther King and Rodney King. That was, during my parents' era. But I really felt like I had a responsibility to speak out more and to say more. Um, so now, as an adult and as someone who's planning to be a healthcare provider, I think that being a writer, being an artist has not only helped me like just maintain my humanity, maintain my ability to connect with people at a very basic level, but also really know when to speak up and how to speak up, and how to use the platform and the power that I have and that I'm inheriting as an opportunity to advocate for my patients and for people who don't.
I'm just going to say, on a personal note, I'm going to say Black women doctors matter. That's all I got to say, because I have a Black primary care, and Black women doctors matter. So support our women that are becoming Black doctors. That is a whole nother subject for a whole nother podcast, another video stream that's not about poetry and writing and art. But I wanted to throw that out. How, now, last year you competed in your first Women of the World Poetry Slam. As we are coming around to that again this year, we are slowly coming around again. How did you find that experience?
Oh, the experience was honestly unlike any other that I've been a part of within the like poetry community. Definitely fun, definitely overwhelming, definitely exciting. Um, I made a conscious effort to like go with one of my close friends, Carlin, my poetry sister. She's probably watching this. Hi, sissy. And I made a conscious effort to like prepare with her and go with her, because that really was going to be like one of my last spring breaks as a medical student, and probably in my adult career. So I was like, let me go out with a bang with just a week of poetry. And it was so much fun to be able to explore Baltimore's art scene in that way. As a DC native, I was really surprised by how many spaces in Baltimore were dedicated to the arts and just so passionate about it. I was like, wow, like I really felt like I had been limited just to DC kind of poetry scene. And so to be there and to see how robust and vibrant it was so dope. And getting to meet all of the competitors, who were also amazing, and all of the like late night fun that we had. So we would do late night ciphers and cut up and laugh. It was just a great time.
What would you say your highlight of the week was?
That's a great question. Well, I actually got to Baltimore on my birthday. So I would say spending that first day with Carlin, kind of getting ourselves situated. We went out to dinner, then we went to the arcade event that took place. And it was just so much fun to kind of, come in and really kind of get settled down. And my mentor had like sent me a beautiful edible arrangement basket. It was just so beautiful. I think that's a really big highlight, and probably what was that, Friday, the last day of qualifiers. I had the opportunity to see Carlin's bout and for her to see my bout. So to have each other in the audience for our bouts together it was just so nice, because we had been missing each other the entire time and in different locations. So to be able to kind of have that overlap at the same time to see each other was wonderful.
Oh, okay. How much writing did you have to do to prepare yourself for the slam?
Actually, it wasn't a lot of writing. It was more so a lot of practice of performance and memorization, which was the hardest part. It was so funny because Carlin, while we were practicing together, she would be like, okay, sis, you want me to be 100 with you? You reading these poems like you ain't write them, and I'm gonna need you to step it up. And I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
"Whoo." I said, "Whoo." I said, "You ain't have to come in my neck like that," but challenge accepted. And it was just a nice kind of push to be like, just because you can put words on a page isn't necessarily going to be enough. Like, you need to be just as intentional about your movement, about how you engage with the audience, about eye contact. And these are things that I had touched on a little bit in high school and college, but never to the level that I saw at WOWS. So it was more so performance, me being on the video call, her being on the video call and looking at me and being like, "I don't like how your arm is moving. Let's try that again. You want to start that over? Let's go back to the top." And I'm grateful to her for that, because I feel like I'm way better of a performer because of that time and that experience that I had with her.
Ooh, wow. If you had, and again, I'm really asking these questions only because WALPS is 2 months out. If y'all know, I'm in Washington, D.C. I am part of the Capital Beltway DC WALP selection process coming that is currently going on. Yes, this is a plug. If you know a woman in the DC area, Baltimore, DC, that can get to DC this Friday and next Friday, but it's really important that they get there this Friday for the qualifier. Busboys and Poets Brooklyn, hosted by Carlin Newhouse. Yes, this is a plug. This is a plug. We do have open slots available. The final will be on the 27th, which is going to be an amazing night. So yes, I'm asking everyone. Yeah, just throwing that out there. Anyone that wants to come through and qualify this Friday. So, which leads to the question, what piece of advice would you give to any poet that wanted to compete in a national slam? And because WALPS, even though it is woman focused, it is a national slam.
Yeah. My advice definitely would be I have 3 pieces actually. The first one
Perfect.
would be to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think, based on my experience and my ranking by the end of it, a lot of other people probably would have been really dissatisfied if their only focus was to be ranked number 1 or top 10 in the world and to walk away with a certain amount of money and that kind of thing. I came with the intention to enjoy my last spring break, to enjoy my time for my birthday, and to make connections with other poets. And I achieved every single one of those goals and some. So I left really, really fulfilled and having had a really great time. So number 1, have fun. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Yes, it's a competition. Yes, there's money on the line, but there's so much more that you can gain from the experience if you're not hyper focused. Number 2, this is going to contradict number 1, but number 2, if you are trying to get the money, prepare. Honestly, if you haven't been preparing already, you're kind of late. And I say that with love because people are coming with their best. They're not coming with their first, their second, their third poem. They're coming with, the thing that they've sharpened, that they've worked with their mentors about, that they've spit at other places to put feelers out for. So if you really want to have a strong chance of winning, study it. Treat this as the craft that it is. And make sure that you get solid people in your corner who can advise you about how to navigate slam performance spaces versus just writing a good poem, because those 2 things are very different. Having a good poem is not enough in a slam space, and being a good performer doesn't necessarily mean a lot if you can't write a good poem. You need both. So make sure you have someone who can help you with both. And finally, make connections, meet people. There are folks who I met at WOWPS who were like, "Yo, you were fire. I love your writing. I love your vibe. I want to work together. I want to connect. I want to host an event when you're back in the area." And that wouldn't have happened had I not gone, So being able to meet people and to have those connections and potential collaborators, that's super amazing. So those are the 3 things that I encourage anyone planning to go to WOWPS to do, or any national slam.
All right, perfect. That's exactly and I want to say that I've been to, let me say it correctly, to be a part of the, what we're going to call any slam, any national slam is usually about a week long event.
Mhm.
I have been a part of one where I was in everything every day.
Mhm.
From the time it started till the night it closed. I was exhausted when I was done. All I wanted to do was go to sleep. But the energy of the space, of being around that many talented poets,
Mhm.
and just taking in all these side events and everything else that you could do,
Yeah.
it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was it's an amazing experience. Okay, so back to you. Back to you specifically. I'm just trying. It's like, especially with WALPs coming, I wanted to get those notes out there for people that have never done it, that may be thinking about doing it. What inspires you the most to write? I know you mentioned a little bit of it, but I wanted to touch on that specifically.
I think it's evolved with time. I think in the beginning, it was solely an emotional outlet, right? My journal was, I think, in a lot of ways, what my grandmother meant to me. She was an emotional safe space. So I turned to writing after she passed away. I think as I've gotten older, my writing has become more of like a bullhorn,
Mm-hmm.
more of an opportunity for me to speak up loudly about things that I'm noticing in the world, things that are important to me, things that I'm dissatisfied about. Um, and I think it's also in a lot of ways helped me to catch people's ear so that I can pass the microphone, so to speak. So sometimes I'm not the best person, that's well equipped to talk about a particular issue that I do care about. So using my art to kind of get my foot in the door and make connections to then pass it along to someone in my life who I know could speak to it better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I like that answer.
Yeah.
I really like it. What are your favorite topics to write about?
Oh, Black women every day, all day. I love writing about Black women and femmes. I love writing about Blackness just in general. I love writing about how art and medicine are not mutually exclusive. So medicine is an art is medicine. And so being able to understand the relationship between the two, I think, is a way to create healing and wellness for the world around you. I also am such a huge sap. So I love writing love poems, self-love poems, heartbreak poems, love poems of all, love poems for my mama, for the women in my life, for the men in my life. I love in writing about all the flavors of it. So it's funny because that's actually how I first met the amazing Simply Sherry that you see on your screen right now. Because I was looking for open mic to get back into the slam, or not slam, but like the poetry scene in DC after college. And I saw that she was hosting, her Jammy Jam Slam. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun. Everybody in pajamas and we get to talk about love. I'm here for it. And the rest is history.
Yes. So at this point, I will insert that this is what I call my poetry niece. This is actually family right here. I love this young lady to death. I can't call them little sister because they are younger than my children. I have two poetry nieces.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, can't call you little sis because you're younger than both my children. So, and I do love this poet. I love everything that she writes, and I love how her performance style is and how confident it is. It sounds like I'm about to give you a brand new writing prompt. Uh-oh.
It
That
do.
C. Thomas. Also, if you have any questions for our guest, feel free to drop them in the chat. In a little bit, we will be soliciting questions again from the audience that is watching. We appreciate that everyone is here. I had another question. Now, what I'm going to let everybody know is that none of the questions, nothing I'm asking is written down anywhere. This is a free flowing conversation because this is the way I like it.
Period.
Period. Okay, so you said that you came to the first Pajama Jammy Jam Slam as a way to kind of step your foot back into poetry. Why that event and not just a regular open mic?
Yeah, so before I left DC for college, I was actually pretty involved at Busboys. So I had kind of come up in high school performing with our poetry club and performing at the youth open mics. And had even at one point in time put my hat in the ring for DC Youth Poet Laureate. I think in its first iteration, like its very first year. And it wasn't a priority then. I didn't really I don't feel like I was a bad writer at that time, but I also didn't devote a lot of time to honing my craft as a craft. So when I left for college and I really started to write and I really started to study writing, it became clear to me that I wanted to come back with the new knowledge and the new skills that I had learned while I was away. During my breaks, I would come back and sometimes I would compete in the Beltway slams or sometimes I would go to the regular slams. But I wanted something that was low stakes, something that was fun, something that was casual, something that I hadn't done before because I met a lot of the same people in the youth open mic kind of circuit throughout my young adult years. So I was like, let me meet some new people. Who's out here talking about love and heartbreak and all the things? And then I popped up and I'm glad I did. It was great. And then the pandemic happened and we all went online. And then I found everybody. So it went from knowing no one to going to Jammy Jam to lockdown to IG open mics exploding across the internet to now us being semi-open, hashtag still wear your mask, hashtag COVID is still real.
Every night. I just hosted a slam last night and I forgot to bring my own microphone covers like I always do. And I said, I know for a fact, I know there's COVID, there's the flu, there's the common cold, there's this RSV thing out there. Let's not pass any of that around. Yeah, let's not. Let's all stay well. I did want to ask you about, because I know you're not doing one this term, but you advertised in the past doing writing workshops. What are those workshops about? Yes, and I'm going to stop there.
Yeah, so I have been able to have the opportunity to teach through a few entities, which I'm really grateful for. So I've primarily been teaching with Catapult Magazine. They're a literary hub and magazine, and basically I've been teaching an open genre course centered in bell hooks about what it means to write and exist within the margins. This is based on bell hooks piece Choosing the Margins as a Radical Space of Openness. And it was an amazing class to teach. It was an amazing class to run. I learned a lot. My students produced art that to this day I want to see like in top publications and magazines. Like they were just so amazing. And I've also had the opportunity to teach about characters and dialogue with Midnight and Indigo, which is a similar entity, but a space specifically for Black women in femmes. So it was really nice to be able to cultivate that kind of environment of learning just for Black people who I identify with and who I want to create a safe space for.
Okay, 1 second. I want to let Lex know we will get to question because that's a good. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do it now. You mentioned mentorship in many of your stories in a variety of ways. What advice would you give to young people trying to find and build mentorship relationships?
Oh yeah. Oh, Lexi. Hi, Lexi. Lexi is my best friend. That's my person. Um, for all of you who watch Grey's Anatomy, you know what that means. We are Meredith and Christina without all of the trauma that they have seen at that hospital. But I would say I would say to be intentional about seeking out mentorship. I think one of the mistakes that I made very early on was trying to get mentored by everyone. Um, and I had to realize that not every person that I saw who was really great at what they did was going to be really great at mentoring me toward what I want. So my biggest piece of advice would really be to like make sure you number one understand where you want to go and what you want to pursue and what your values are, and then organically ask people who are kind of along that same or similar path to support you in that journey, to not necessarily decide that path for you, but to provide you with the like wisdom and the resources that you need to get there. I think that's really really important because um just like in plenty of education spaces, not every person who's brilliant in their subject or in their field is really patient or has the capacity to teach other people. So you want to make sure that you're well aligned with whoever you decide to have mentoring you. I actually have a really funny story though about mentorship. Um, I remember when I was younger, like a youth poet, and I had seen Frequency perform at Busboys. They were featuring, and I was so in awe. I was like, "Oh my god, I want to be Frequency! Please teach me." And my mom at the time was like, girl, you better go and ask them, can they mentor you? We talked about this. Be confident, be bold, you got it. And I was like, okay, mommy. And so I went up to them and I was like, hi, I love your writing. I'm a youth poet. Would you be open to like emailing with me and giving me some advice on my poetry? And they were so gracious, so kind. And we emailed back and forth for a little bit while I want to say, still early high school, lost touch for a while. And I saw them again at Wouts because they ran workshops and were selling from their store. And I didn't think that they were going to remember me. And so when I came to their reading, I was like, hi, I just wanted to come and buy your chapbook. And they looked at me for a second and they're like, are you that youth poet who I used to email and give advice to? And I was like,
Oh,
yes.
wow.
So, I really think it's about like genuine organic connection. It always comes full circle. It's never a moment or, a connection lost or missed. Everything happens when it's supposed to happen and at the right time. And I believe that more and more, especially now. So I say all that to say keep in touch with people, but if you fall out of touch, you will likely come back together and come back around when you're supposed to.
I love that answer. And let me also add on to that answer, because that is such an amazing question, Lex, is that I have had people come to me at requesting advice and guidance and assistance. And because I know I am humble enough to say, I'll say it that way, that I know that there are better poets, better hosts, better artists out here than me. So I will say, I can bring you so far.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will say to you, okay, you are past me. I need you to go talk to this person over here. I need you to find somebody else. And it's not that it's not that your mentor is trying to get rid of you, so to speak, or that I'm tired of you. It's that we want to make sure that I want to make sure that if I know somebody else that can help you more than I can,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
And because I know how far, I know what I'm good at. And I'm not good at everything. I know that I could not coach a National Slam Championship poet. Why? Because I am not one.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and part of the onus too is like for people who are in these spaces to be able to identify what they can offer realistically as a mentor.
Right.
There are plenty of people who have approached me for mentorship, and I'm like, I think you're incredible. I think you're talented, and I just don't have capacity. I work, I'm a student, I perform, I'm taking care of other things in my life. I can't be what you need right now. And I have a mentee unofficially or officially already that I'm taking care of. It's not that I don't care about you, but I don't have the capacity to treat you the way that you deserve as a potential mentee. So being able to be upfront about that and managing expectations very early, I think it's just as much the responsibility of a potential mentor as it is the responsibility of a mentee.
Perfect. Okay. So, as everyone knows, if this is your first time singing from behind the microphone, I want to let y'all know that just as they do in the old television show Inside the Actor's Studio, the host would ask the exact same 10 questions at the end, just to kind of as a get to know you, because again, this is a time to get to know the person behind the performance, because performers are people too. Now, my first question you've already answered, which is what brought you to writing poetry, and you mentioned the passing of your grandmother.
Yeah.
So question 2, tell me the story of your first experience performing one of your poems on stage. When was it? How did you feel about it afterwards?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Because I ended up actually reading a poem I wrote in honor of my grandmother at her funeral. So technically her funeral was my first stage, so to speak. But I didn't really perform my poetry maybe until middle or early high school. I was more so an oratory kid. So I was doing speeches. And for folks in DC, you probably have heard of like the Frederick Douglass Oratory Contest if you have young children and are an educator. So I used to participate in that. So I was often being prepared to like learn speeches and to learn monologues, but not really poetry until I want to say my first year in high school. And that may have been at like our Thanksgiving like day celebration. It was in what was the name? What's the name of GW's auditorium?
Oh Lord, what is the name of that? I do not know the name of that space. I'm not.
Yes, but it was in GW's auditorium. I went to school without walls, and we don't have like an auditorium big enough to hold the entire student body. So they generally use GW's auditorium. So that was the first time, and I was a little nervous, but because I had done oratory already, it wasn't too bad.
Okay. You have chosen not to use a stage name. Was there a particular reason why?
I couldn't come up with one that I liked. And I'm a little upset about that. Like, I see everybody with these cute, jazzy stage names, and you know, it's just me. It's just who I am. maybe, but you know, I think that's to my advantage though, because if I ever want to write under a pseudonym, if I ever want to release something under a completely secret identity, no one, you know, would really be able to spot me. It'd be really nice. Lisner, yes, Lisner Auditorium. Thanks, Unc.
What is the name of the poem or the subject matter of the poem you haven't written yet?
Ooh, that's a great piece.
That question comes from Dr. Rebecca Dupas. You're welcome.
probably a piece about my mental health. It's a conversation that this is the first time that I'm ever even like really alluding to it in an interview. But mental health is such a necessary conversation that needs to happen both in art spaces and in medicine for healthcare providers. And I am terrified to write that piece. And I know it's a piece that I need to write. But I think growing up, there was so much stigma about how you are perceived and what you're capable of and what you can be, based on the kind of struggles that you're able to get through or endure. So I've always kind of kept my grief, my struggles to myself. But I know that there is a space for me to write that piece. And I actually have it like in my prompt list. And every so often I'll look at it and I'm like, you know what? Today isn't the day, but it'll be one day.
Note, there's a piece, and I'm not going to go into the subject matter, that I'm like, I can't believe I've never written that piece. I can't believe I've never written that piece. And I was scrolling through Facebook memories probably about 3 months ago. And the subject of that piece that I keep saying I hadn't wrote yet was that poem.
Wow.
Point being, you may have actually already done it and you just don't remember.
You might be right. Now I'm going to be digging.
Right. Now, this question comes from another friend of mine, a frequent Keep the Mic On watcher. If Prince were alive, he could not do a concert without doing Purple Rain. What is the piece that is most requested from you? What is the piece that you cannot walk away from a feature without doing?
Prince? Oh, there's so many. Oh my goodness. I mean, the immediate thing that came to mind is Scandalous, maybe Insatiable. He has a little groovy thing. Breakfast, can't wait. I feel like Do Me Baby is a classic.
No, what is the most requested from you?
No, I know. I don't know. Like, I want all of these.
No. What I'm asking is, if you had touched the stage, what is the most requested poem that they ask you for? It's okay.
I thought you were asking me what I want Prince to do.
We'll come back
now y'all know I want all of Prince's discography.
It's okay.
Okay. So top 3 greatest hits from Najya the Poet. There we go.
Yes.
Sweet Tooth. Skeleton, which is a piece that I don't perform a lot, but it was a fan favorite in college. It's so funny, because when I performed this piece for the first time, it's basically talking to like a metaphorical guy about, you know, how he's choosing, you know, other relationships and other girls over me. And when he's going to decide to like let all of those skeletons come out of the closet, so to speak. Literally moments after I performed that piece for the very first time, people walked up to me backstage and were like, I'm going to leave my boyfriend tonight. Thank you for giving me courage. And I was like, wow. I'm glad you're freeing yourself, sis. You deserve better. So every time I perform that piece, people come up to me afterwards and they're like, I'm going to leave my boyfriend. Thank you. So Sweet Tooth, Skeleton, and probably Baby Fat. Baby Fat has also been popular. It's a piece about street harassment / sexual harassment. And it's a piece that's meaningful to me because I've always been freaked out by how violent men are towards me on the street, especially as someone who grew up curvier and who was perceived to be sexual and a sexual being from a very young age. I wrote that piece honestly from like very real lived experience in DC. And anybody who is a young woman or a young person in DC who is curvier knows like taking public transit and the metro and being on the bus sometimes can be really scary, especially if you take a similar route and people recognize you and they're like, waiting on you or they know your schedule. It can be very scary. So that's a piece that I pride myself on.
Analysis is saying the lamppost joint.
Yes, I do have a persona piece about being a street light and the struggle of being a street light and bringing light in the daytime, but being a symbol of potential unsafety depending on who stops you under that same street light at night.
Thought just hit me, and I'm going to internalize it. Who is your favorite writer? This can be a songwriter, poet, author, anyone you consider a writer.
Oh man, you're killing me with just the one. I have like 10.
Top three.
Okay. Top 3 of all time, Intisaki Shange. For Color Girls still is revolutionary in my house. I love it. I reread it constantly. Lucille Clifton. And probably I'm gonna say Tank and the Bangers. They're a band. For those of y'all who don't know, they're based out of NOLA, and their first album is poetry. I know it's music, but it's poetry, especially their record Roller Coasters. I have not heard a record that talks about loss and love and excitement in the same way ever in my life. Chef's kiss.
You have a 1-hour conversation with anyone in history, living or dead. Who would you choose and why?
I would love to talk to Asada Shakur.
Ooh.
I would love to sit at her feet and honestly just listen. Because growing up in DC in such a politicized and militarized city, I would just love to learn from her. I would love to hear about her life, to hear what she wants young people who are coming up, who are passionate about mutual aid and caring for community and doing meaningful work, what she wants us to know. I firmly believe that organizers of our past have also been like storytellers of our future. So I'm sure that she has like the pulse on where she sees this world going, and I would just love to kind of pick her brain about that.
Perfect. I love that answer. Your perfect concert, 3 acts, living or dead. Who would you want to see? I don't know what the arena.
Well, after the previous question, you would think that Prince is on the list, and Prince ain't even on the list. That's embarrassing. Oh my God.
Okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Who's in my top 3? Avery Sunshine.
Ooh.
Avery Sunshine is literally like gospel in my house. If Avery is playing, you don't cut her off. Avery Sunshine. Probably Jill Scott. And Jasmine Sullivan.
And I probably spelled that wrong, but Analysis answered said he missed your question about who you wanted to talk to. Tell us something about yourself that most people would not know.
Something that most people wouldn't know. I am a really like avid tennis watcher.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I'm a huge tennis fan. I've always loved tennis. I used to play tennis a little bit, actually on Banneker courts in middle school. I went to Howard's Middle School that they have on their campus, and I got into it there. And then during the pandemic, I just like completely fell in love and was able to like. I had always kept up with like Serena and Venus over the years, but once the pandemic happened and I really had time to actually watch TV, I was like, oh, I'm hooked. So it's so funny because Lexi, you saw a question from them earlier, but Lexi will be like, what you doing? I'm sure it's watching tennis. And the answer is probably yes. I like when people call me and they know tennis is on, I'm like, I have the screen right here. And I'm like, okay, oh my gosh, I can't believe you missed that hit. Yeah, girl. It's like that kind of conversation.
I'm going to insert another question that I probably should have asked earlier, because when did you graduate from Harvard?
I graduated in 2020, the lucky graduating year.
Yeah. So how did the pandemic affect your last basically semester of college?
It honestly cut it short. We were sent home. We were given 5 days to get off campus. And I had to leave in 48 because the way that it was set up, my tickets were already purchased for spring break. So trying to rearrange that would have been more challenging than just going home. So me and my friends packed up all my stuff in 2 days. And my mentor came and helped me. And it was really, really hard because it went from being around all of my friends and having all of these robust plans about how we were going to celebrate each other and this accomplishment. In our last semester, we had finished our thesis writing. We had finished a lot of our hard classes. We had like so many plans to go party and go hang out, to coming home to DC, being, taking Zoom classes in my bedroom, trying to navigate Zoom challenges, trying to complete assignments while being so terrified of my mom getting sick, of me getting sick. We were seeing neighbors getting ill, a few people passed away. Like it was a really like scary time. And it's one that I think I honestly keep at the back of my mind. Like I don't even really allow myself to venture too far into thinking about it.
I get it. I understand. I just wanted to. I knew that was that question was like dancing in the back of my head because I knew that was the year you graduated, and then you started Temple that fall, correct?
I started Temple the following fall.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was home for a year, and I was teaching in that year. So it never really was time off for me, so to speak. It was just kind of like someone put the pause button. And then I was unpaused after that year.
So the last question from this portion of the segment, and then we will let you do a poem, and then my team will come back. I know they're listening. Oh, wait a minute. That's a lie. I have 2 questions left. I lie. Ooh, I lie. Question number 10. I didn't realize there were 11 questions now. Do you have another creative outlet? And if not, is there something else you wish to learn?
Yes, I have quite a few. I actually am a huge crocheter. So I make blankets. I crochet during class and during lectures. So oftentimes they'll see me with big balls of yarn and I'm just sitting there going to town. And normally I donate those blankets to the pediatric ward at the hospital. So it's that's like my little creative freedom and outlet.
Okay. This is the last question again. So we will let you do one last poem. My team will come back. We will ask you some questions. Audience, if you have any additional questions, now's the time to go ahead and drop them in the chat. This question is borrowed directly from inside the actor's studio. If heaven exists, what would you want to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Is that a poem prompt? I think that's a poem prompt. You might be hearing this in the slam circuits, in the future. Just letting you know.
I'll be on the list
If
now.
heaven exists, I want to hear God say at the pearly gates, thank you for being love.
Oh, wow.
Thank you for being love to my people and to your people. Because I feel like sometimes we get so hung up in scripture and religiosity and performing in churches and performing in religious spaces when at least the God that I believe in and serve has only required that we love each other, that we show up and meet each other with love. So I fully want God to say thank you for being love for my people.
Ooh, that is beautiful. Okay, so C. Thomas says that he has a request, that they have a request. I am trying to find out what this request is.
Okay.
Before we send you off into doing your next poem.
Okay.
Make sure I don't have another question dancing at the back of my head.
Well, you're doing great.
I would like to hear the letter of resignation poem.
Okay. I kind of figured, so I was preloading it. Don't worry.
All right. Everyone, please, Najya Williams.
Getting it loaded up, everyone. Oh my gosh. I'm working from a document that has entirely too many pages, which is why this is taking me so much longer than it should. I'm sorry. All right, I'm almost there, y'all. Okay. This piece is entitled 2 Weeks Notice. Hi, Father. I'm sure you already saw this coming, but this is my 2-week notice. Effective December 25th, 2022, I will no longer be savior or son. There have been a number of grave abuses even before my conception, and my grace is too ancient to continue. I'm sure you believe this is about my mother you shamed for me, or my friends you chose for me, or my cross you built for me, but this is most truthfully about the prayers. Every day, all day, I am overwhelmed by desperate pleas from those who believe and those who don't, asking for impossible answers. Jesus, why must my child die today? Lord, why must evil prevail? God, why must I suffer to receive your love? I cannot answer them because I've yet to know. You left me on the cross, bleeding, broken, bruised, and raised me from my death, not because you loved me so much or to even erase sin itself, but to make me a gargoyle at your throne, to feed your ego instead of the many, to know that they'll get what they're dying for. I would say, I hope you don't find my successor, but I know that's wishful thinking. Maybe I'll pray my brother isn't left alone, hurting, and he'll know someone truly loves him then. Signed, Jesus.
Whoa. So yeah, everybody in the chat is saying that this is their favorite poem. And now I see why. I see why. All right, wait a minute. Let me redo this. Yeah, I was trying to do something and apparently it did not work. Okay. All right. So we are bringing everyone back. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, everybody.
Hey. I'm unmuted. Okay. I just realized. Yay.
So I'm going to open it up to my team if they have any questions.
I don't have an immediate question. I just want to point out the fact that I'm just going to say again, you're brilliant. You're absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
This is also my niece, yo. This brilliance, the brilliance, the brilliance, and I love you, and I'm glad that you were able to make it on the show. I did find out a bunch of stuff I didn't know, which is great. Like this is a really good way for me to sort of have a little bit more insight on like how your writing process works. Mm-hmm. So I really do appreciate you coming back to do the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy that I could participate. When I was invited, I was like, yes.
I was excited when I knew you were coming on too. I was like, oh. So I don't have a question per se. So if anybody else wants to throw some things in, we are taking questions from those in the audience watching. So
Nikki, I was going to, if you want to go ahead first.
I think she's frozen.
Hey.
She's not moving. She's frozen.
Mic check. Cool.
Analysis, go ahead.
My computer is freezing.
I'm sorry, that's some sound issues going on.
Hopefully.
Hello, my niece.
You guys, can you hear me?
Because you're awesome, really see you. And I love you madly to death, to life, and all of those things, as you already know. And it's just exciting.
I see a one finger.
I say this really about every artist that comes on Kick Mode.
If you guys can hear me or not. I saw Sherry's one finger.
But it's always a lot of fun to get to know them better, even people that I've known for years. And for someone who indeed is chosen fam, such as yourself, for benefit of the audience, this is again, as Sherry mentioned, one of my poet nieces, also former Red Emma's Mother Earth Poetry Vibe feature, along with the other poet niece, her sissy, Carlin Newhouse. They came and tore it up in what was the last feature at our Cathedral Street location. But to get more in depth from your own words is really cool. And before a question, I also want to say, so that people can go and find this out for themselves. So I've loved your writing and your performance and poetry and everything in the few years that I have known you. But it was fascinating to go back in the time machine, so to speak, and to look at your writings in Cotton in your book, which dips all the way back to high school. And then, of course, coming through your website in terms of high school and undergrad. The level and the critical analysis and the incisiveness of your writing during those years is phenomenal. And when I say that, I mean that you were writing as an undergrad and as a high schooler on levels that many writers just in the adult years period don't achieve. And so I really encourage people to go and take a look at those works and go back in those works. Every time I look at your writings from those time periods, I think, well, what the hell was I talking about when I was that age? Probably some bullshit, because I mean, obviously it wasn't on that type of level. And so I wanted to say that. You and I, among other things that connect us, both identify on the radical left of the political spectrum. And coming from the standpoint of the Black radical left. And I guess for purposes of this conversation, for working definition, for the audience, we'll call that, at the very least in the U.S. context, left of Democrat, left of the two-party duopoly. And that can mean many things, everything from green to various manifestations of socialism, on even further left into the anarchism, into the anarcho-socialist spectrum. But for generally speaking, on the radical left, how do you find that your art and your performance opportunities and your writing opportunities have given you a space to articulate that more? What do you feel is the reception or the energy that you get back from some of those ideas? You talk some about it in Mad Black Woman on your website. You draw from Cedric Robinson, one of the great Black Marxist thinkers, Black radical thinkers, and some other things like that. So how is it that you feel that your artistry gives an outlet to being who you are on the radical left, and the kind of the reception to it, or the energy that you have sensed as you've expressed yourself that way?
Absolutely. And I appreciate all of the praise that you sent my way. I'd be hiding on, I can't handle all of these compliments. I'd be incognito. But I appreciate it, and I appreciate you and Girl Genius and everyone on this call so much for the love that you've given me. Thank you. I think my artistry has always been, or I shouldn't say always, but as I was mentioning earlier with Auntie, I started in middle school. Middle school was when Trayvon Martin when he was murdered, for me. So during that time, I knew that I wanted to speak out and say something. I just didn't know how to do that. So poetry came to mind. And I did march with my classmates. We did go down to the White House. We did protest, especially in high school. But with me being on the younger side of things, my mom was like, you coming in the house. I understand what you're doing. A power to the principal. I get it. But you're going to be in the house because they don't care nothing about you being, a little Black kid. If you out there protesting, and I can't handle that. And I was like, all right, mama. So I use my poetry as a way to communicate all the things that I wish I could have been able to do on the ground. And I think I've gotten mixed reception about the themes and ideas that I have. I feel like as I've gotten older, my work is not as overtly high. This is what I hate about racism. It's a lot more subtle in the sense of, you don't think that's racism, but I'm going to tell you why it is and why it's rooted in that. And I think that makes people more uncomfortable than when I do a poem from, something from Cotton, where I'm talking about slavery from way back when, right? It's a lot more easy. It's a lot easier for people to handle me talking about a distant memory versus the racism that they perpetuate and hold space for now. But it's funny that you asked that question, because I know how much you appreciate Mad Black Woman as an album. And we've talked a little bit about it. And I actually wrote that album as a final project for a class at Harvard. It was a class about the emotional labor across gender identities, and looking at how people who are identified as women or non-men are carrying such an invisible, heavy, sometimes crushing load in their work life, in their personal life, in their financial life, in their spiritual life, in their emotional life, just constantly being the resting place. And we would read things, where people would be talking about like, I just come home and things are done and I love it. Who do you think is doing it? How are you able to show up to a home cooked meal, to clean clothes, to a clean house, to sleeping babies? It's generally people who aren't men who are doing those things. And my professor for that class was a white woman. And I made it a point I made a silent vow in every conversation that we had. I was like, well, this all ties back to racism. Let's talk about why. As a Black woman, let me complicate the feminism that you're offering in this class. And she ended up taking my album and adding it to her syllabus and having me come back and speak to her students and perform for them. And she made sure that I was like appropriately compensated and attributed for the work that I created. So I'm grateful that I had allyship in her, in receiving that kind of support and encouragement to be honest and to be loud about how I was feeling. That was a long answer, but
no, but very crucial, because what you're demonstrating is the importance of, to use Alice Walker's phrase, womanist theory, and practice, and then putting it into practice through the arts. And you just gave an example of how womanist theory and thought, Black feminist thought in the arts will show up and make its way into white spaces and spaces that it needed to. And so, mad respect for that. That's exactly, that's exemplary to all of us as artists in terms of what should be happening. This is what we're supposed to be doing with our art, I think.
Absolutely. Miss Kaniki, okay. I see your question and I heart you too.
So for those that are listening and can't see, for those that are listening later on Spotify and can't see the question that came up, the question from Kaniki is, do you feel that you are better read or heard, and why?
I feel like I am absolutely better read, because I think it's easier for people to project who they think I am and what they think I look like onto a page versus the actual human being. And I feel like that's proven in the fact that a lot of my work has, hit people and hit desks and hit, entities that probably wouldn't have reached out to me necessarily if they knew that I was a curvier / heavier set Black woman. Probably not. Who wears an afro and natural hair and all of these different things. And who has the politics that I do as firmly as I do, especially now. And that's not to say that that's a bad thing, but I think that people dig a little deeper into my words when they're able to see it on the page without me. I'm not mad about that, but I think that's just a reality.
Perfect answer. I love that. I love that. Wait a second. All right, there we go. Do we have any other additional questions from the anyone that is watching? Now's the time to ask. I will take this opportunity to mention that to say hi to anyone that is listening to us on Spotify or any of the podcast platforms. We appreciate you. That was a great answer. Thank you. Okay. So at this time, I'm going to ask everyone to give a virtual or as much as we can, round of applause to our special guest this evening, Najya Williams.
You got to get the whole round of applause, literally.
Please follow her website, which is listed up over here at the top. Send her some monies. College ain't cheap. Med school ain't cheap.
No, it's really not. Med school ain't cheap.
Listen, we're in the inflation. Eggs are $100 a carton, please.
Listen, we need more Black women doctors. Listen. I want more Black women doctors in the healthcare system. I need y'all to make that happen.
Yeah,
make that happen.
They are a requirement. They are a requirement. We will be back next Sunday with Poets and Platforms, hosted by Kaniki. Look at me get it right. Look at me get it right.
I know.
On the first shot.
Oh,
and
Cast
our
is free.
special guest,
Yes, we have Cast is free back next week.
Cast is free is coming back, and we're very excited about that. We're very excited about that. That will be next Sunday, 7 p.m., streaming here live on YouTube and on Facebook. Please, as we ask in this moment, please like, subscribe, follow, sign up for our email list on Keep the Mic On. We are on all social media at Keep the Mic On. Spelled exactly as it sounds, all one word. Everyone,
last 7 people subscribe so we can make 100. Thank you.
Yeah, let's get to our first 100. We'd be really excited about that. Everyone, please stay safe. Wash your hands. Let's all stay well. And we will see you all again next week. Good night.
Thank you all so much. Love you.
Love you.